Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to Post Cologne. Today we're going to be taking a look at Lattafa's Ta'Weel. Alright, so Ta'Weel is from the House of Lattafa. It's an eau de parfum concentration, and I picked this sucker up for $35 at fragrancecanada.ca. I'll have a link down in the description if you decide you want to check this one out. This one is a little hard to find. It's not as widely available as some of the other Lattafas, but it is available at Fragrance Canada if you're interested. Presentation on this, quite nice, and it's not from the Pride line series as far as I'm aware. It's just from the regular Lattafa line, but it does have a nice cardboard box. Has these kind of stag deers in the front with a kind of a plastic clear casing to that. And it does open up with a nice fancy podium for this bottle to sit in. Nice little ribbon attached, and it is really snugly sitting inside this nice kind of velvety, kind of styrofoamy style of podium bed, if you want to call it that. So really nice box presentation on this. And I do like the bottle on this. This does have a certain kind of majestic elegance to it. Nice kind of, irregular shape to it. It does have a bit of a cheap plastic kind of front to it, but you get that nice emblem up front with those deers in the cap. So overall, pretty nice presentation. Cap on this, nice thick heavy metal, and the atomizer on this sucker, really nice, does spray quite far, good distribution. Overall, nice presentation. So if you were wondering what Lattafa's Ta'Weel smells like, you have come to the right place, because I'm about to tell you. I searched high and low to try and figure out what the note breakdown on this one is. Couldn't find it anywhere. I even reached out to Lattafa themselves to see if they could provide that to me, and they friggin' ghosted me, which I found quite rude, but it is what it is. But I will try and give you a description as best as I possibly can. Perhaps some notes that I'm detecting in this one that might give you an idea of what this one smells like. What this does smell like in the opening is some very nice, bright citrus, along with a little bit of a kind of a metallic saltiness, a little bit of a sharpness that comes through. Very ozonic, citrusy style of fragrance with a little bit of sweetness that's mixed in there. So a little bit of kind of sour tart bergamot perhaps, a little bit of sweet mandarin, giving it a bit of an orange zesty sort of feel with a little bit of sweetness. And I'm gonna say that there might be a little bit of ginger that's mixed in there. It has a little bit of fresh spiciness to it, has that style of sweetness that ginger can kind of give you sometimes, and it has this effervescence to it as well that mixes in with this kind of mineral accord that's in there. So it has almost like an aquatic, mineral, salty sort of vibe, but it doesn't have that marine note that going on to it. So it's not like an aquatic fragrance by any means, but it has that saltiness, that mineral sort of feel, mixing with those citruses. Very kind of a hard water, citruses squeezed within that hard water, adding some sour, sweet, tart sort of accords to it. Really nice, bright, invigorating, fresh style of opening. A little bit of pepperiness that's mixed in there as well. Again, there's some fresh spiciness perhaps from that ginger, but also maybe some black pepper in there that gives it a little bit of a nose tickle, a little bit of an added sharpness to it. Very ozonic, very citrus style of opening. As this kind of unfolds a little bit more and it opens up, you do get kind of a hint of some suede leather that is sitting in the base and is kind of tucked in the background, adding a little bit of an additional character with that soft, leathery sort of feel. But you also get this greenness that's coming through, I find. It's almost like an Immortelle style of green, so it has this almost kind of sweet, fresh, rooty vibe going on to it, a little bit of a dryness to it, and a little bit of herbaceous sweetness that works its way in. It's very interesting, that green note mixing with the citruses, and along with that mineral note and that suediness. It's a very unique style of fragrance. As this gets towards the dry down, I do find that mineral note really kind of drops off, which is kind of why I don't think this is quite like a Ganymede style of cologne fragrance. It really loses that sharp mineral vibe as you get towards the dry down. You do get a little bit more kind of a woody vibe that starts to work its way through, more of a vetiver, so it has this dry, grassy style of feel to it. Might be a little bit of cedar or sandalwood mixed in there. It does have a little bit of airiness, a little bit of smoothness that's mixed in there, but through and through, citrus, green, woody with those fresh spicy accords that work through, and it's overall a very interesting style of scent accord. Not going to be for everybody, and if you are looking for that Ganymede style of fragrance, this might do it for you, but I think this is more of a twist than anything. I don't think this is a direct clone. I think this might kind of incorporate other scent accords in it as well as the Ganymede one. So not quite a one-to-one clone of Ganymede. There's other ones like Paris Corners, Amir, Celestial. That'll get you a little bit closer to a one-to-one Ganymede style of fragrance. This one, like I said, a little bit of a twist, but overall it's a really interesting mix of those citruses, those woody accords, those spicy accords, with that little bit of greenness that starts to come through. So very interesting fragrance. Little on the unisex side, but I will say this leans a little bit more masculine. It has a boldness to it. It has that sharpness to it in the very beginning, and in that dry down has that kind of grassy, woody style of feel with those sharp citruses. The citruses do stick around for quite a while, even into the dry down, and they maintain that sweetness. So this does have a nice level of sweetness that lingers into that base, into that dry down, along with those woods and those spices. So it's a nice balance of those sweet accords, the spicy accords, and the woody accords. So overall, it's a well balanced but unique style of fragrance. So when it comes to the performance of Lattafa's Ta'Weel, I'm gonna say that I'm a little disappointed, to be quite honest. The longevity on this is not quite there for me. It's about 4 or 5 hours off of my skin. I can push it out a little bit further on my clothing. It does linger a lot longer on my clothing, but the projection on this is really what let me down. This really does not push off very hard at all. This is a very intimate style of fragrance. Sits very close to the skin right from the opening all the way to the end of the longevity of this fragrance. I did not find this pushing off very hard. Even when I was like, my body was warmed up, it was a really hot day when I was wearing this a couple times, and it just didn't even seem to radiate off when it was activated by that heat. So I was a little disappointed with that in terms of the projection, and the longevity could have been a little bit better. So overall, I will admit I'm a little disappointed with the performance on this. So when it comes to the where and when, I think Lattafa's Ta'Weel would be most appropriate. Definitely think this is more of a casual style of fragrance. Out running errands, hanging out with your friends, lunch on a patio, that's the style of fragrance that this would be. Doesn't have that sexy, flirty allure to it to be necessarily a date night fragrance. There's other ones I would definitely choose over this one. Just has that kind of spicy woods, the green, that mineral citrus style of sharpness to it. A little bit too ozonic to really be kind of that sexy style of date night fragrance. So not necessarily a date night fragrance. And in terms of formal occasions, I don't think you can necessarily dress this one up. It just has that casual feel to it. Doesn't have that kind of sophistication level to it that would make it great for a dress up style of occasion. So like I said, very much a casual style fragrance. In terms of seasons, spring and summer, this is definitely where this one fits best. Just has that bright, invigorating, ozonic sort of feel to it. The woods and the fresh spiciness that comes through aren't overbearing, so they wouldn't be like too much in the heat. I think that they can fare fairly well, especially even in the high temperatures. I think this would do well. Has that freshness to it, has that kind of like light green, sweet feel to it that, like I said, spring and summer is where the vibes fit for this one the most, and like I said, casual fragrance. So my overall thoughts on Lattafa's Ta'Weel is, it was a like, just not a love for me personally. There is a uniqueness to this. There is like an interesting scent accord, the suede, the woods, the ozonic citrus accords, that little bit of that mineral saltiness in the opening, and that kind of greenness, sweetness that kind of comes through. Makes this a very unique style of fragrance, but it's not going to be for everybody. This might be a little bit challenging for some people. Not a dumb reach, mass appeal style of fragrance that you can just wear easily and get lots of compliments. I think this might be a little bit too much for people who are just looking for something that's a little bit easier to wear in the spring and summer. And like I said, the performance on this is probably what let me down the most, and that's what kept me from really enjoying this one, is because it was a little bit weak, and the projection on this was so close to the skin that it didn't push out hard enough. I didn't get to enjoy this fragrance as long as I would like to enjoy a fragrance. Like, it was hard for me to even smell it on myself, even like right after application. So I was really let down with the performance. The scent accord on this, I do enjoy. It has that uniqueness to it, but overall it was unique, it was different, but it just wasn't anything special. So that's just my personal opinion on this. You know, again, it's not a bad fragrance, it's just wasn't a love for me. That's Lattafa's Ta'Weel. And I want to hear from you guys. What's one Lattafa fragrance that I haven't done a review on yet that you want to see me do a review on? Comment down below. I love hearing from you guys. I love getting your different recommendations, your input, all that jazz. Appreciate you. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.